you are always on front. Ẹ má ṣe kúrò rárá o. 102.7 FM, the pride of the people. Ìlú London láti ẹ̀kọ́. Àwa dá yàtọ̀ gidigidi. Ó máa ń lọ bójú ọmọ ìtàn. Àwa rédíò. 102.7 FM, the pride of the people. Ìlú London láti ẹ̀kọ́. Àwa rédíò, the pride of the people. Tíátíá ni ẹ mọ̀ gbọ́. Àwa rédíò.
A very beautiful morning out there, and welcome to another edition of In the Papers on your darling station, IPOWER 102.7 FM. My name is Florence Ibhareman, and of course today, the 17th of March 2026, we bring to you a rich blend of headlines and making the front page this beautiful morning, from politics to business to security and of course social issues, breaking them down as you stay informed, engaged and ahead. From the corridors of power to the streets of everyday Nigerians, today's papers are filled with conversations that matters, decisions that affect our economy and development in governance. Of course, stories that reflect the pulse of the people. So I implore you to please stay tuned to IPOWER 102.7 FM as we have endless headlines and making rounds in today's newspaper. We have headlines from the Hope newspaper this morning. We have headlines from the Punch newspapers. We have headlines from the Nation's newspaper as well as the Guardian newspaper this beautiful morning. Yes, I'm glad to have you back. The program is still in the papers on your darling station, IPOWER 102.7 FM. And yes, beginning from the Open newspaper this morning, we have a talk on Ramadan. And it says clergy urges the federal government to intensify fight against insecurity. Still on the Hope newspaper this morning, we have this one coming to you. It says project Tinubu's image with integrity, selflessness. Ekiti deputy governor charges group. On the Hope newspaper this morning, we have this headline that says FG undertaken bold reforms to reposition Nigeria, and that is from the minister. Away from the Punch newspaper, the Hope newspaper this morning, and now to the Punch newspaper, where we have petrol, diesel vessels arrive Nigeria amid price surge. Still on the Punch newspaper this morning, we have Kwankwanso condemns Maduguri bombing, urges actions against terrorists. Still on the Punch newspaper this morning, we have probes begin after Kaduna Abuja train incident injures passengers. Away from the Punch newspaper this morning and now to the Nation's newspaper where we have police deploys EOD teams as a multiple explosion rocks Maduguri. Still on the Nation's newspaper this morning, we have Tinubu wife begins historic state visit to United Kingdom. Yes, on the Guardian newspaper this morning, we have this headline that says University bans the use of smartphones by students. Glad to have you back. The program is in the papers on your darling station, IPA 102.7 FM. And of course, the program is centered around us bringing major headlines to life on the today's newspaper. Of course, we have this headline coming to you from the Hope newspaper this morning. And it says clergy urges federal government to intensify fight against insecurity. Now the details. The chief imam of Owo, Sheikh Yunus Anola, has called on President Bola Tinubu to intensify efforts in addressing insecurity across the country. Anola made a call during the 2026 special Ramadan program and ITAF held in Okiagbi, Akoko Northwest local government area of Ondo State. The clergy said deploying more security personnel and investing in modern security equipment would help curb insecurity and restore public confidence. He also commended the Interior Minister Olubumi Tunji Ojo for organizing the Ramadan gathering, describing the gesture as thoughtful. Delivering a lecture titled Imam and Humanity, Anola emphasized the importance of unity and peaceful coexistence among people. He said, and I quote, humanity begins when family ties and blood relations, which should be priority for everyday human being, whether from Nigeria or elsewhere. We should remember that we all originate from a single source, Almighty God, who has given us guidelines on what to do and what to avoid in order to ensure peaceful coexistence. The Imam scholar also stressed the need for global respect for human lives, warning against actions that undermines peace and justice. For details of that story, see the Hope newspaper this morning with this headline. Clergy urges the federal government to intensify fight against insecurity. on the Hope newspaper this morning, we have a Project Tinubu's image with integrity, selflessness. Ekiti Deputy Governor charges group. Now the details. The Deputy Governor of Ekiti State, Chief Mrs. Monishade Afuye, has advised members of the City Boys movement to project the image of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu positively and with honesty ahead of the 2027 presidential poll. Mrs. Afuye praised the pro-Tinubu group for their commitment and political bravery, particularly the way they have started grassroots mobilization within a short time they were inaugurated in the state. She gave the charge on Monday while playing host to members of the City Boys Movement Ekiti chapter at her office in Ado-Ekiti, the Ekiti state capital, applauding the members of the movement for being zealous in their solid backing for the president and by extension to Governor Biodun Oyebanji. The deputy governor appealed to them to consider the task as a selfless service, an avenue to build their political future. She said it would be a task for all of them to be rewarded with monetary or political position, urging them to perceive the task as a sacrificial national assignment predicted on ensuring re-election of President Tinubu in the large interest of the country. For details of that story, see the Hub newspaper this morning with the headline Project Tinubu's image with integrity, selflessness. Ekiti Deputy Governor charges group. Still on the Hope newspaper this morning, we have Edo orders arrest, persecution of students over bullying video. Now the details. The Edo state government has ordered the arrest and persecution of students of Igbeledion Education Center involved in the viral bullying incident, describing the act as disturbing and unacceptable. The State Commissioner for Information, Mr. Kazim Afegwa, described this on Monday during an interview on Channel's television program Sunrise Daily. Afegwa said the government took immediate action after a video surfaced online showing some students allegedly bullying a fellow student on an accident that has generated concern among parents and members of the public. Afegwa stated that the incident had raised serious concern among parents and well-meaning Nigerians about discipline in schools and the conduct of students. He said, and I quote, "It is quite disturbing when we heard the news and saw the clips of the video. We were wondering what could have warranted such behavior." He stressed that there could not be justifications for students bullying their peers, describing the act as completely unacceptable. There would be no justification for such kind of treatment. It is very unacceptable. According to him, the state government moved swiftly by expelling the students involved while also directing the police to ensure that those responsible are arrested and prosecuted. The commissioner disclosed that he had also contacted the state commissioner of police to ensure that the matter was being properly handled. For details of that story, see the Hope newspaper this morning with the headline Edo orders arrest, persecution of students over bullying video. Away from the Hope newspaper this morning and now to Daily Post newspaper where we have schools and communities key to fighting climate change. Now the details. National President of Custom Officers Wives Association Mrs. Kikelomo Adeniyi has asserted that to combat climate change and promote a healthy environment, actions must begin in schools, homes, and communities. She added that schools remains the most effective platform for addressing challenges such as rising temperature, flooding, and environmental pollution. She spoke on Monday at the Idiroko Area 1 Command, Ogun State. She underlined that the purpose of the team, Green Barracks, Green Borders, Advancing Environmental Stewardship for a Carbon Responsible Future, was to educate the next generation of leaders about the value of a healthy environment. The national president clarified that the initiative's goal is to raise eco-aware kids who recognize sustainable living, waste reduction, and tree planting as a doable strategy for preserving the environment and enhancing air quality. In his address, the acting Custom Area Controller Ogun 1 Area Command Deputy Controller Olukayode Afeni described the program as timely and expressed belief that the greener border environment is not just beneficial to communities but also essential to the mission of maintaining safe and prosperous border. He noted that the visit underscores the Union's commitment to promoting environmental sustainability, community development, and the welfare of families within custom community, especially along the border corridors. For details of that story, see Daily Post newspaper with this headline: Schools and Community Key to Fighting Climate Change. Away from Daily Post and now to the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have petrol diesel vessel arrives Nigeria amid price surge. Now the details. As Nigerians contend with rising petrol price, vessels carrying 129,000 metric tons of premium motor spirit, petrol, and automotive gas oil, diesel, are expected to dock at Lagos port between March 14 and 17, 2026. This came as officials of the Nigerian midstream and downstream petroleum regulatory authorities explain why some importers were still importing PMS despite the agency's position that no petrol import license has been issued this year. According to the Nigerian port authorities, shipping position daily obtained on Monday, a vessel Mosumola carrying a 20,000 metric tons of PMS arrived at Lagos port via the bulk oil plant on Sunday, March 14, 2026. Another vessel, Kobe, with a 22,000 metric ton of Ago of docked the Kirikiri Lighter Terminal Phase 2, Tinkan Island port the same day. On Tuesday, March 17, Bora is scheduled to arrive at the Kirikiri Lighter Terminal 3B with 20,000 metric tons of PMS, with Ashabi, while Ashabi will bring 30,000 metric tons of AGO to the same terminal. Additionally, Oluwajumolo offloaded 15,000 metric tons of PMS at Calabar Port through the Eco Marine Nigerian Limited on Sunday, March 15. Mosumola will also deliver 15,000 metric tons of PMS to Calabar Port via the Northern West Petroleum Gas Co. Limited terminal on March 17. The vessels arrives coincident with the ongoing fuel price hike nationwide. Nigerians currently face surging price cost after Dangote Petroleum Refinery raised a guarantee price of PMS to 1,175 naira per liter, pushing retail price at above 1,200 naira per liter. The increase has affected transport fare and driven the cost of goods and services nationwide. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper with this headline: Petrol, diesel vessels arrive Nigeria amid price surge. Still on the Punch newspaper this morning, we have Army raises the alarm over multiple suicide bomber in Borno State. Now the details. The Nigerian Army has raised an alarm over the possible deployment of multiple suicide bombers in Maiduguri, the state capital of Borno State, by suspected Boko Haram terrorists, urging residents to avoid crowded places. The alarm followed the suicide bombing incident which occurred on Monday evening, where 23 people lost their lives and 108 people sustained injuries. In a statement on Tuesday, the Media Information Officer, Northeast Joint Task Force Operation Kai, Lieutenant Colonel Sunny Umba, said the attack targeted crowded public areas in an attempt by the terrorists to inflict mass casualties and create panic within the metropolis. He said three locations, including the post office area, Monday Market access, and the entrance of the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital, were affected. The statement reads, and I quote, the headquarters Joint Task Force Northeast Operations in Dinkai, which wishes to inform the general public of suicide bomb explosion that occurred at about 7:05 p.m. on Monday, 16th March 2026 in Maiduguri Metropolitan Council. The explosion, according to a statement, were carried out by suspected Boko Haram terrorists, suicide bombers who denoted the explosive during the period of Iftar, breaking of the fast. The statement added that the troops of Operation the Aidin Kai, in conjunction with the Nigerian Police Explosive Ordnance Disposal (EOD) team and other sister security agencies, responded swiftly to the incident and immediately secured and cordoned off the affected locations to prevent further harm. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper with this headline: Army raises the alarm over multiple suicide bomber in Borno State. Still on the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have a talk on Japa. Doctors' mass migration worsen Nigerians' health crisis, says Minister. Now the details. Nigeria is grappling with the worsened health workforce crisis as the mass migration of medical professionals continues to strain the country's fragile healthcare system. The Minister of State for Health and Social Welfare, Isiaka Salako, has said. Salako raised the alarm on Monday while delivering a keynote address at the 2026 United Kingdom Global Health Summit held at the Royal College of Physicians in London. The minister said the exodus of Nigerian health workers, popularly referred to as JAPA, has intensified manpower shortage and placed erroneous pressure on the country's already overstretched health system. According to a copy of a speech made available to our correspondent in Abuja, Salako noted that Nigeria currently has about 4 doctors per 1,000 people, far below the benchmark recommended by the World Health Organization, who suggests a minimum of 10 physicians per 10,000 population. Salako added that the situation was particularly acute to Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, where a shortage of doctors, nurses, midwives, and other health professionals have reached alarming level. The minister disclosed that the migration of healthcare professionals had significantly worsened the country's manpower deficit. Citing data from the United Kingdom, he said that about 13,609 Nigerian health workers migrate to the United Kingdom between 2021 and 2022, making one of the largest sources of foreign trained medical personnel in the country. He also referenced the 2023 survey conducted by the NOI poll and Nigerian Health Watch, which have found that 57% of Nigerians doctors had taken concrete steps towards leaving the country in search of better opportunities abroad. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper with this headline: Doctors' mass migration worsen Nigerians' health crisis, says Minister. Still on the Punch newspaper this morning, talking 2027. Nigerians angry and hungry for change, says Dixon. The former governor of Bayelsa State and senator representing Bayelsa West, Saraki Dixon, on Monday said many Nigerians are increasingly frustrated with the current state of affairs in the country and are eager for political change ahead of the 2027 general elections. Dixon stated this in Abuja during the unveiling of a digital membership registration portal of the Nigerian Democratic Congress. He described the platform as a major step towards expanding participation and strengthening party's organizational structure nationwide. The national leaders of the party led the unveiling ceremony along the NDC national chairman Cleopas Moses, the National Secretary Ikena Enekweze, as well as some state chairmen and other party leaders and stakeholders. Commenting on the current political climate in the country, Dixon said many Nigerians were increasingly dissatisfied with the status quo and were searching for credible alternatives. The senator further described the party as a fresh and crisis-free political movement focused on ideological policies and national development. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper with these headlines: Nigerian angry for change, says Dixon. Still on the still on the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have APC leaders caution against Ayedatiwa's re-election distraction. Now the details. Leaders of the All Progressive Congress in Ondo State have commended Governor Lucky Ayedatiwa for advancing infrastructural development across the 18 local government area of the state. The party leaders, under the umbrella of the concerned grassroots leaders in Ondo APC, warned the lieutenant not to distract the governor. One litigant not to distract the governor with court cases, noting that Ayedatiwa had not declared an intention to contest for a second term, but had faced legal challenges. The judgment of the High Court A judgment of the Federal High Court sitting in Akure last week altered a purported ambition of the governor in seek re-election. In response, the governor said he had never announced any plan to contest. Speaking Speaking with journalists in Akure on Monday, the convener of the group, Chief Babatunde Akinwolere, said Ayedatiwa had demonstrated commitment, stability, and purposeful leadership in steering the affairs of the state and should not be distracted by unnecessary litigation. He stated, and I quote, "People should not distract the governor with unnecessary litigations. He is doing well in the state. His administration had continued to place the welfare of the people at the center of governance while ensuring that the development reach every part of the state." For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper with this headline: APC leaders caution Ayedatiwa against re-election distraction. Still alive. Glad to have you back. The program is still in the papers on your darling station, IPA 102.7 FM. And of course, to reach us for your reactions and comments, you can reach us on our social media handles on Facebook, IPA 1027, on Instagram, IPA 1027, on TikTok, and on X, IPA 1027. Of course, to reach us for contributions and comments this morning, you can reach us on our studio line 0816552 4699. Yeah, still on the Punch newspaper this morning, we have a court strikes out 20 billion naira money laundering charge against ex-director. Now the details. A federal high court in Lagos on Monday struck out an alleged 20 billion naira money laundering charge filed against a retired company director, Taiwo Ibitola, and a firm Lexan Investment Limited. Justice Akintola Aluko struck out the charge, following an application by the police to withdraw the case. The defendant had been charged with 4 counts bordering on conspiracy, fraud, conversion, and retention of proceeds of, of crimes preferred against them by the police when the case first came up on November 13, 2025. For the defendant's arraignment, proceedings were stalled due to absence of both the prosecutor and the defendant. The court subsequently adjourned the matter to December 16, 2025 for arraignment. However, the court did not sit on that date, leading to a further adjournment until March 16, 2026 for the defendant to take their plea. At Monday's proceedings, the prosecutor, M.Y. Bello, informed the court that the prosecution had filed an application date February 26, 2026, seeking to withdraw the charge against the defendant. Bello told the court he urged the court to discharge the defendant while allowing the prosecution the liberty to revisit the matter if necessary. Counsel for the defendant, Professor Taiwo Osipiton, SAN, did not oppose the application but urged the court to dismiss the case outright to prevent the prosecution from reopening it in the future. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper with this headline: Court strikes out 20 billion naira money laundering charge against ex-director. Away from the Punch newspaper and now to the Guardian newspaper, where we have university bans use of smartphones by students. Now the details. Margaret Lawrence University has banned students from using smartphones on campus, warning that first-time offenders could face 2 weeks suspension. The institution explained that the measure was introduced to help students concentrate on the academic work, noting that smartphones often serve as a major source of distractions during learning activities. The Vice Chancellor of the University, Professor Ernest Izegbege, stated this in Abuja yesterday during the third matriculation of the school for the 2025-2026 academic section. The Guardian reported that over 272 students matriculated, while the hybrid event was conducted physically at the Abuja main campus. It was held virtually at the Delta State campus. Speaking with reporters, the professor said that the decision was to avoid distractions, stressing that the first-time violators risk a 2-week suspension, while the penalty increasing with every offense. In fact, that one of our most selling points, they are not allowed to use smartphones so they can communicate. In his remarks, the founder and pro-chancellor of the institution, Paul Odili, charged the students to remain disciplined and focused on their academic pursuits, urging them to take full advantage of the learning environment the university provides. For details of that story, see the Guardian newspaper with this headline: University ban use of smartphones by students. Still on the Guardian newspaper this morning, we have ICPC seeks court order to extend El-Rufai's detention. Now the details. An Abuja magistrate court is to rule today on the application by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission (ICPC), seeking an additional 14 days to keep former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai in custody. The presiding magistrate, Okechukwu Akeweke, had last week adjourned proceedings to allow the court to consider an anti-graft agency request for an extension of the remand order. El-Rufai had been in custody since February 18, 2026 over allegations bordering on money laundering and unlawful interception of communications belonging to the National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu. The Commission had earlier secured a 14-day remand order from a magistrate court in Bawari, Abuja on February 19, 2026 to detain the former governor while investigations continued. The order reportedly expired on March 5. Following the expiration of the remand order, El-Rufai's lawyer, family members, and supporters criticized his continued detention, arguing that it had become unlawful. They maintained that once the order lapsed, the commission ought to have either released him or arraigned him before a competent court. According to them, holding the former governor without a valid court order violates his constitutional rights. In response, El-Rufai filed a fundamental right enforcing suit before the Federal Capital Territory High Court, challenging what he described as his prolonged and unlawful detention. For details of that story, see the Guardian newspaper with this headline: ICPC seeks court order to extend El-Rufai's detention. Still taking headlines. Still taking headlines from the Guardian newspaper, where we have NCDC records 109 deaths, 469 cases of Lassa fever in 2026. And now the details. Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention (NCDC) has recorded 469 confirmed cases of Lassa fever and 109 deaths in 2026, representing a case fertility ratio of 23.2%, which is higher than 18.7% recorded during the same period in 2025. It's in its week 9 epidemiological report covering February 23 to March 1st. NCDC noted that 65 new confirmed cases were recorded, a decline from the 77 cases reported in week 8. According to the center, the new infection was reported in Benue, Ondo, Bauchi, Taraba, Edo, Plateau, and Nasarawa State. It stated that 6 health workers were infected during the reporting week, bringing a cumulative total of 37 this year. The NCDC noted that week 1 and week 9 of 2026, Nigeria recorded 2,446 suspected cases of Lassa fever, of which 469 were confirmed and 4 were classified as probable. NCDC observed that 86% of all confirmed Lassa fever cases were reported from 5 states of Bauchi, Ondo, Taraba, Benue, and Edo, while 14% were reported from 13 states with confirmed Lassa fever cases. The report showed that 18 states across 69 local government areas had reported at least one confirmed case of the disease so far this year. It revealed that a predominant age group affected by the disease was 21 to 30 years. A male to female ratio for confirmed cases was 1 out of 8. For details of that story, see the Guardian newspaper with this headline: NCDC records 109 deaths, 469 cases of Lassa fever in 2026. Glad to have you back. The program is still in the papers on your darling station, IPR 102.7 FM. Yes, I have this headline coming to me from the nation's newspaper this morning. It says, Tinubu wife begins historic state visit to the United Kingdom. Now the details. President Bola Hamid Tinubu and First Lady Oluremi Tinubu will today depart Abuja for a historic two-day state visit to the United Kingdom at the invitation of King Charles III and Queen Camilla. It marked the first state visit by the Nigerian leader to the United Kingdom in decades. It will also make President Tinubu the first Nigerian president to be received by the British monarch at the Windsor Castle. The presidency said the visit is intended to strengthen the long-standing relationship between Nigeria and the United Kingdom. Nigeria gained independence from the British colonial rule on October 1, 1960. For details of that story, see the nation's newspaper with the headline, Tinubu wife begins historic state visit to the United Kingdom. Still on the nation's newspaper this morning, where we have NRC releases interim report on Kaduna Abuja train accident. Now the details. The Nigerian Railway Corporation (NRC) has released an interim report on Monday's train incident along the Kaduna Abuja rail corridor, attributing the accident to a suspected coupling failure. The report, signed by the managing director of the corporation, Kayode Opeifa, disclosed that 26 passengers and onboard personnel sustained varying degrees of injuries during the incident. According to the report, the Kaduna Abuja service KA2 departed Vigaza station at 7:15 a.m. and arrived Jerez station 1 minute ahead of schedule at 8:52 a.m. It stated that the train later departed Jerez at 8:59 a.m., about 6 minutes behind schedule, after locomotive 2809 was coupled to the rig to strengthening the operational resilience. The report said the incident occurred at about 9:16 a.m. while the train was approaching Asham station between kilometer point 50 and 51 along the route. It explained that a long bang was heard when the power car and trailing locomotive collided with one of the passengers' couches. Preliminary findings, according to NRC, suggest that the impact was caused by an issue with one or more cupola linked to the locomotive and the couches, leading to a possible decoupling. The corporation, however, clarified that none of the train couches derailed during the incident. For details of that story, see the nation's newspaper with the headline NRC releases interim report on Kaduna Abuja train accident. And of course, still taking headlines and major stories, we have this coming to you from Daily Post. It says Mapoli Staff Union decries funding gap, calls for Ogun State government intervention. Now the details. The Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Polytechnics, Moshood Abiola Polytechnic Mapoli, Abeokuta branch has called on the Ogun State government to look into the current challenges facing the institution in order to keep it running and to protect the future of its students. The union, in a statement signed by its chairman, Comrade Tunde Abiodu, and the secretary, Comrade Olutosin Ogundeyi, on Monday pointed out that inadequate government subvention to the institution, adding that it remained unchanged for over a decade despite current economic hardship. They called for an upward review of the current monthly subvention of 20.75 million naira given to the Polytechnic, explaining that the institution actually needs over 210 million naira just to pay its staff. According to them, the institution had relied on internally generated revenue to sustain basic activities, maintaining infrastructure, support academic programs, but can no longer survive on IGR alone. The union also attributed the decline in student population over the years to several factors, including program accreditation challenges, increasing competition among tertiary institutions, and infrastructural limitation, arguing that the reduction in student enrollment has affected the financial capacity of institutions to sustain academic and administrative activities. The union urged the government to provide special financial intervention to support accreditation of programs and invest in the rehabilitation and development of infrastructure within the institution. For details of that story, see Daily Post newspaper with this headline Mapoli Staff Union decries funding gap, calls for Ogun government intervention. And that is where we draw the curtains on today's edition of In the Papers. We have taken you through the headlines, unpacked the news, and highlighted the issues shaping our nations and beyond. Remember, staying informed is not just about reading the news, it's about understanding it and knowing how it affects you. As the day unfolds, keep the conversations going, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay responsible with the information you share. I am Florence Ibhareman, and it has been a pleasure bringing you the news that matters. Do enjoy the rest of your day, stay safe, and keep being informed. And of course, this has been in the papers. Do join us tomorrow for another educating edition. Until then, bye for now.